Hello, everybody. This is Shoot the Breeze, Episode 7. I am your host, Heavy Divider, and right alongside me is a very creative individual. Well, as a matter of fact, he's really good at model making and map making. Not only that, he's also a very good tutor when it comes to certain things you wish to learn, here and there. For those who know him on YouTube, he's known as Heroes and Fools, but for most people around him and close friends, we always call him Zeshin. Welcome, Zeshin.
Hey, thank you.
Nah, it's all good.
Good to be here.
Oh, yeah. So, quick question, Zeshin. First question I got for you. How the hell did we meet?
I'm pretty sure it was through VR High, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. Definitely VR High.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think I recall seeing you before then, and it was pretty much the first day that I showed up to that, because it was the day that I was just seeing what Hyper was doing, and he was like, "Hey, we're doing this school RP thing. You want to join?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And found like whatever avatar was like, "Okay, what this?" I only got one that works as I guess something that works in school or whatever. So I'll take this Uramishi thing, and that's how Zeke was born.
That's how that was the first thought that came to my head. Was basically the moment it was like the first RP episode or anything. We were just waiting, before we get started, and then out of nowhere, I looked to my right, and then I just see a Yusuke Urameshi with a goatee. I was like, huh?
What is that?
What is that? Never thought I'd see that before. But
yeah.
But yeah, it was like from there on out, it was like, it's weird how that RP just brought most of us together, and then basically we get to know each other later on in life, here and there. It's like, actually, I was like, that's been like actually, that RP started like a year ago, didn't it? Or I think it was like...
I think it might have been, I don't remember if that was last year or a little over that, but it's something like that.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between there, I feel like it was. But, something else too I'd like to ask is basically your origins, like your VRChat origins, like what brought you here, for the most.
Oh, what brought me to VRChat? So a funny thing with VRChat is, prior when I saw it, I actually was averted to VRChat. I didn't like the idea of streaming it or whatnot. Mostly just because my prior experience with social apps on VR have been kind of subpar. Basically, I messed around with like AltSpace and trying to remember the other one. I think it's like Facebook one. But overall, they always been like something I wasn't all that interested in. It wasn't until I started watching or catching some videos related to VRChat where people are doing role plays and showing off custom avatar kind of stuff that I started seeing like a potential with it. So I think 3 or 4. No, it wasn't. I don't remember how long ago it was, but several years ago, I decided to give it a try and kind of explore it in the same way I was approaching the Oculus DK2 stuff when that was coming around. Just basically like make videos of like individual stuff. So in this case, individual maps. So I grabbed my friend One Under and DV, and we hit some horror maps. Then I was doing some recording stuff on my own as well. Back then, I had my Spike Spiegel avatar, which was an interesting learning experience on how to actually get that to work. It was one that I found off DeviantArt, and I got that all rigged up and stuff as my like first avatar.
I got you. I got you.
So basically, I never ran around with any of the public avatars. There's always just ones that I uploaded.
And something else too, which I've always noticed, is the fact that, like in VRChatter, so you always go by Zeshin and everything. Where did the names Heroes and Fools come from? Like
So Heroes.
What?
So Heroes and Fools came about when I originally wanted to start a YouTube channel. Way back when. I think this is close to 10 years. It's like 8 or 9 years at this point. Back then I was fresh out of college, or at least close to about out of college. And I wanted something that me and my friends could do to kind of build ourselves off. Back then I was mostly wanting to do video game development. So I had my friend who was known as Kane, the other one's known as Richard, trying to get something together. And the original idea that we were wanting to do was essentially Dungeons and Dragons online RP, kind of stuff. Like, we never really got around to it because like the camera work and whatnot was way too fickle to mess with. But that was kind of the thing. We were all like kind of D&D nerds. So it was kind of like surrounding that whole concept. And so we're trying to figure like a name for the channel at the time. My friend Kane suggested like Heroes. I don't remember if he suggests the full name. Probably suggests the full name. But the concept behind it being that we both do like heroic stuff / stupid stuff because we constantly mess hat.
I got you.
But overall, I kept it as a name that stuck because with Heroes and Fools, I like the mantra of the fact that I'm the fool who entertains the heroes. The heroes are the ones who would support me, the ones who, that kind of thing. So the overall idea is that I would be the jester, or to bring happiness via entertainment.
I got you. No, I understand, and I definitely understand the model behind it, especially with its origins and basically the idea for coming up with something with you and your friends. I assume you stay in contact with your friends, right?
Yeah,
you do. Okay.
I still talk to them now and again.
Okay.
It's gotten a lot harder since then because over 9 years people do this and that. I think for the most part, all the people that I knew prior to YouTube I have better contact with. People I've known through YouTube, a little off and on depending upon how things were going about. But for the most part, I tried my best to keep in good contact. Luckily, since Discord became a thing, it's become a lot easier.
Oh yeah, definitely improve everybody else's lives, especially with more different features than one. So.
Way better than Skype.
Oh god, I remember. No, I remember just Skype in general, just the fact there was like a character limitation on it, like when you type in a box and everything. Like sure, Discord has it, but with it you can at least space it out. But
don't forget the connection issues, the constant crashes and all. I had a running joke in my Discord where the meme channel is called Skype. So whenever somebody wanted my Skype back then, I sent them the Discord link to the Skype channel.
Oh, that works. I mean, it definitely works. Very much.
Yep,
so,
and it's where all of our memes and trash go.
Oh, there it goes. So, my second question I have on hand is basically, do you have any other hobbies besides this game? Besides just, being in this game? Like any multiplayers or so, or?
So I used to, as of late, at least ever since, the big whole thing keeping everyone inside came about, I've been pretty much just doing almost non-stop udon development. The only other things I do outside of it at the moment is I'm trying to get more into biking for fitness sake. I do a bit of card collecting, so I have some Pokemon cards, DBZ cards. I don't engage as much in like some of the old hobbies I had. Like I played Minecraft and I still do now and again. Minecraft was if anything I've ever played more than VRChat would probably be Minecraft. I'm very like drawn to anything where it's you have creative freedom to make things. You can kind of use it to make kind of videography type stuff, and also most importantly if you can program stuff into it. With Minecraft, that was very much custom NPC stuff, because the custom NPC mod enabled the ability to program with JavaScript to actually have things trigger off. In fact, I actually had a little mini-series I did where I actually had NPCs that you could go up and right-click. They would swap them with another mod called the mocap mod, which would cause the NPC to move around and stuff based upon what I pre-recorded them with, and play an audio. So it literally had active NPCs that you could like talk to, kind of talk to.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's fun stuff that you can do with that.
I feel like,
of course, like with.
No, I was gonna say I feel like that basically later on to right now or so. I'm pretty sure there's a mod that kind of like upgrades that one, especially with the whole NPC thing, right? Or is it just kind of like still there? It's just need time for it to mostly custom scripts overall, just to be able to have more interactions, I guess, I believe.
Well, considering you can have like straight up programming with it, it's kind of hard to beat that. Custom NPCs has been continuously updating though, so they have like more stuff you can do.
I got you.
And unfortunately, everybody who was involved with that is still stuck in 1.7 because anybody who I talked to that dealt with that played, as you can see, this
Yeah.
Minecraft map, which is modeled after a Dragon Ball Z world,
Mm.
mostly pointing at a particular mod called Dragon Bloxy, which was somewhat my life prior to VRChat.
Well,
It's a DBZ mod for Minecraft.
well, I can easily tell that basically DBZ is like a really good part of your life, especially with like certain things on hand with like particles and everything, or just like
Yeah.
certain references here and there that I know you have subtly.
Yeah. I would say DBZ is like definitely been an influence. I think the primary draw was because I did the Dragon Bloxy, and that kind of revolved a lot of stuff that I ended up doing. But one of the things I like with DBZ is just the whole like charge and big explosion type stuff, and kind of like some of the struggles with that. I will say, out the gate, anybody who's a DBZ fan who doesn't also call it a trash anime is not a true DBZ fan, because let's be honest, it's trash anime.
I mean, I will say,
love it anyways.
I mean, I love it too. I grew up with it, like especially during the Toonami era and everything. And there's people we've already met that basically encapsulate the whole DBC thing from like Mega G Wolf, from Shinigami, from there's like who else? Because I know there's certain ones who made models. Oh, who made the Comics Lookout one? Because I was thinking of it because they made
Todd?
Yeah, Todd. Yeah, King Todd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely influences. Like if you look at like all other anime or like major influences, I think the only other big one would be Fate. It's like there's a lot of DBZ stuff, there's a lot of Fate stuff, but you don't see a whole lot of references to other stuff. Maybe the occasional model here and there.
It's kind of a rarity too. Like, because it's weird because we're in VRChat and like you can almost find like at best you can find like almost any model you're looking for, but sometimes it'll be like the rare ones where it's kind of like hard to find, especially if they're like really well known or so, or hidden secrets you might be able to find, especially with everything it is. And speaking of modeling, I thought I would ask a little bit about your wisdom in the followings of like VRC modeling or map making in general, because as a programmer or such, you have a really good knowledge base on how to like get certain things done, like especially with what you want to encapsulate with what model it can be made as, or in the sense of like certain animation of particles or so. I will say for the most part, is it pretty much just a testament that since you were so interested in programming, you had like an easier time just kind of like getting things rolling with it, or has there always been like certain stumbling blocks when it comes to like certain things that are not working, or in a sense when you're working with like Unity or Blender?
I mean, there's always stumbling blocks, but if there's anything that I would attest to is probably my number one hobby is learning. Essentially, like when I looked at this game and saw the big draw of like the things that you can create with it, it was a really big like thing that I wanted to do because the thing that I love more than anything is learning how to do something new. So there's always stumbling blocks, but that's what the internet's for. If you can't figure out how to do something, look up enough tutorials and you'll eventually find somebody who get the little tiny nicks and crannies, and then past that is just trial and error. But overall I would guess probably the biggest problems usually I'd run into, like at least messing with this, is the kind of false positives that you can get now and again. Like when I was messing around with Udon, it's like it's straight up programming, so I'm like easy to get into, except when using Graph, the compiler was not consistent or telling you that it was not working. So I had a lot of trouble getting into it initially because I would try something, but the expectation did not meet the result. And it would do that several times in a row, and then I would post it, and it's like, is there anything wrong with this? And people would say, no, it looks perfectly, and I tried, and it works perfectly. It's like, well, you didn't do that before! So, it's like, as long as there's, like, ways to look up the information, somebody to ask, or not something giving you false positives, I haven't really had any trouble getting into things with that. Basically, the biggest thing, if you're ever doing modeling or programming, to get better just requires persistence, practice, and information lookup. Any programmer worth their salt will tell you they're a professional Googler, because anybody who programs just knows how to look up the information, because that's pretty much half of the work.
I mean, yeah, I could see that, especially with the sense of like, because not everybody's gonna know every like programming code like off the bat.
No.
Like off the back, even with the amount of studying or amount of even with the amount of studying or amount of like self-researching by yourself or so, you're not gonna remember like number-based or basically a certain line of code here to kind of get it to work. So
it can vary, but overall, the biggest thing to note is that because of the day and age we live in, being the information age, I'm not sure if we're still in the information age, but effectively we are. Is that like there is a high likelihood that whatever you're attempting to do, somebody has already done it. Therefore, there's no need to reinvent the wheel, and that's kind of like the biggest progress with programming is don't reinvent it unless you really want to. But overall, you don't have to. So just use what people have done, and then build off of it to then make something of your own. Gotcha. At which point, because like. I think that's one of the biggest thing in programming is that a lot of us don't actually care for people to reuse our work, and the ones that do care have a tendency to kind of get secluded and, not doing things like. I guess it's like, different rate of growth. You can do it, but it's way more efficient to build off of each other than to just hoard everything yourself.
Pretty much adaptation. Pretty much you adapt what you have in front of you and just kind of like build it just to make it better. And even if you couldn't make it any more better, so there's going to be somebody who comes along who makes it even better,
Yeah.
Or find something here and there.
It's like if you're trying to build, I don't know, a big claw machine, you shouldn't be spending the majority of your time on a cog when a cog has already been invented.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, very good. Very good. So, I will ask too about map making entirely. Now, understand, I've never made a map in my entirety, let alone I wouldn't consider myself a model maker. But basically, how hard is it to kind of like, say if you were trying to make a map from scratch, or say like, I assume that certain maps on hand can easily be like imported depending on if you can find the right file for it. But for the most part, is it just kind of like a tedious thing, considering the fact you got to kind of like get certain things to work with it, especially when especially when it's like a different file size, or there might be certain things missing out of it, since this is like an entire different engine. But is it like...
So, I mean, I guess it all depends upon what you were trying to accomplish. I mean, like, people can make these things from scratch with relative ease. You just kind of, you make a box, UV texture, some texture to it or whatnot. The thing I have a habit of doing, because I'm not as strong of a model... like actual 3D model maker as I'm a coder, I usually look up what's free on Sketchfab, because there's like a lot of models people just put out there for free for use. Usually get something like that. A lot of times they might already have lighting and stuff in there. But I would say like overall it's not really that complicated. I think it is very intimidating to get into, because there's a lot of bells and whistles you have to get used to. Big thing that a lot of people kind of skip over is learning how to light bake, or using ocular occlusion, or how to set up your map. Because one of the things I learned, like with this one and the other DBZ map I had, is that having really massive objects, light baking hates that, because like it has to map the light over the whole object. So I'd say I'm still learning how to do a lot of the aspects that are required to make a map. There's a huge wealth of information on how to mess with it, but that doesn't stop me from making one. You just the best thing you do is just throw yourself into it, and you're not sure what to do, just like, I don't know, throw down a bunch of planes,
experiment,
throw some textures on it, and experiment. Yeah.
When it definitely comes down to it, creative-wise or so, it's always just basically experimenting with what you work with, and if it doesn't work, try something different or so. Which that's where the whole creativity and just kind of like self-learning comes from too. You just kind of like learn as you go along, and basically you begin to figure things out little by little as time goes by. But
yeah, I think like two qualities I think would be very important is definitely persistence. A lot of people just feel like you can't accomplish it just because it feels like there's too much work as long as you're persistent with it, and just like chip at it little by little, you'll start learning the things that you need, and you'll accelerate with it. So you have to be persistent, and you just have to be willing to try.
Mm-hmm. And that is relatable, pretty much no matter what it is or so, especially when it comes to coding entirely, which I will say I'm impressed that you're able to like figure things out little by little with coding, because for me it'd be like the most stressful thing possible when it comes to, unless you have that good creative guide on it, just be able to experiment.
I mean, for the most part, it's just the same with modeling. It's like, okay, how to block, Google it. Then you find chunks of code, plug it in, mess with it.
Hmm.
So it's what it really just comes down to. You just gotta tinker. Just gotta tinker.
Be a tinkerer in a way.
Funny thing is, actually, when I went to school, I studied computer graphics technology, about modeling, animation, and stuff. Because for me, that was my weakest skill set. So I graduated with a degree in computer graphics technology. Still got a job as a programmer though.
Well, it worked out in the end, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely worked out in the end.
Worked out in the end.
Mm-hmm. So, for a topic I'd like to ask on hand, since with how long you've been here or so, let's talk about the current VRChat present right now. And that being, you know, from back then when you first started, you know, just kind of like seeing everything back into where you are now, you can easily tell some of the differences that have been changed and some things that haven't been changed. Would there be any things you wish that would have been changed over to where we are now, to where certain things should have been just left alone? Because that way it would be maybe a lot better on hand or better handling.
I think the only thing I would think that should have been left alone was the name tags, the whole ranking system. Because overall, while it does like identify certain things based on how long somebody's been in here, and you know a couple other aspects of it, I felt like it's created at times a bit of a hierarchy. Like I even had or like here now and again where somebody wanted to completely dismiss somebody just because they're a new user. It's like that kind of behavior is not good. Other than that,
no, I could see it. No, I can see what you mean by the whole hierarchy. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, just pointing at like the use of the hierarchy system. I get the point of it, you know, to be able to control certain things for new users, because they're like the most common like people who would cause grief would be people who are making brand new accounts. But I don't know, honestly, I dislike the hierarchy that was put into it. Other than that, I think like there wouldn't be anything that I would change. I know a lot of people dislike the quest compatibility stuff, but overall, I think what people don't realize, mostly just because people who are on Quest have to be in Quest World, so you don't really see them all that often. There's a lot of Quest users on VRChat. Like when I made the DBZ map Quest compatible, it like has seen more activity than I've ever seen it on a daily basis. So I think it's just like people are using Quest who would pop on here now and again, or just looking for stuff to do, but people haven't like spent the time to make things Quest compatible. Which really, to make it Quest compatible, is just a click of a button, re-update the SDK, changing shaders, and then that's it. Make sure it's under 50 gigs.
Yeah, which is usually the hard part because basically there's most of the maps we have on here. I'm pretty sure about like 10% of them may be underneath like 50 megabytes or so. And because of that,
people don't know how to do compression as well. Maybe that should be some tutorials, how to compress your map.
Well, I was gonna say, I thought it would be based on the fact that basically some people just like to put so much stuff in just for like better aesthetics and just kind of like better visuals, that for you to kind of like go compress it all the way down just kind of like loses the magic out of it, from what I assume.
It depends, because like with the DBZ map, it was at 100 megs, and then after I compressed it, it was at 30. That also included kicking out some songs, but other than that, I didn't have to sacrifice any of the functionality. I think the other things that you kind of lose out on is specialty shaders, things with like bloom effects or whatnot, because the Quest doesn't handle second passes on a shader very well. Kind of mucks with it. So you have to do kind of basic lighting and shading and whatnot. But I mean, if you do all that, you'll get a map that'll run at 90 FPS. So there's benefits.
Yeah, there is definitely benefits from it. It's just
Mhm.
a matter of, like you said, pretty much tinker around, experimenting with it. Especially when it's like a
Yeah.
different,
N-
especially when it's like a different foreign land for like Oculus Quest users overall. So
mm. Now, I will say when I joined VRChat, I think people would call it right after the Knuckles phase. So I was like just at the tail end of that, so I didn't really experience any of that. But the community that I did interact with then, I don't really feel any difference to it to the one that is now. A lot of people talk about how like so much change has happened to VRChat, but overall I still see the same kind of people now and again.
it's just a different generation, really. Because put it this way, for some of the
Mm-hmm.
people that have been here, like say like from late, kind of like late 2017, like early 2018, what we experienced that day, is pretty much the exact same thing that new people are coming in are experiencing now, because we've already seen everything. We've already seen everything, so
Mm-hmm.
really the only thing we have is nostalgic and memories from it. But the thing is, for new people who are coming in, they're starting to feel that, feel what we already felt. So really, when it comes down to it, or so, times have changed, but the new experiences you can always feel, or like memories, are always going to be based on like different maps you encounter or so nowadays, especially with these new updates they have on hand, or with this new system of Udon. Just try to create something
Mm-hmm.
different.
Not to mention the Avatar 3 that's coming out. That's gonna enable a lot
Yeah, it
with
definitely will.
avatars themselves.
I heard.
Like a ton of different ways you can just toggle systems on and off. Overall, I saw somebody who posted a video where they used it looked like a gestureless system where they'd reach out and grab a thing to put on as like this belt. I think it was like Common Rider kind of thing.
Oh,
And then he'd reach into the same place, and then instead of grabbing the belt, he grabbed an intercom, which he was then able to like toggle between two sounds. And then with the said intercom, would slap it on his belt and cause an entire like new animation to happen. And basically, it looked like most of it not really utilizing gestures, mostly like area,
mhm.
was toggling between different systems. Like I think technically you could do things like that with Avatar 2.0, but like he turned it on with a thing on his HUD, which means that avatar could have like all sorts of other stuff as well.
Mhm.
There's a lot of stuff we're gonna be getting.
Yeah. The one thing I have heard, especially with the whole Avatar 3.0 thing, is the fact that basically it might be a little bit harder to make emotes for certain things. Because keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind, it's basically not being remastered, but basically being revamped for like a different way of being able to try some different things. So because of that, certain things that you've done beforehand that were easy to access may be a little bit harder depending on if you're starting out or so. But I was curious about it.
I mean, possibly. I haven't looked into it all that much because I'm pretty much on the Udon binge at the moment.
Mhm.
I'm very more attracted to doing things with code than I am modeling and whatnot.
So, something else too, which speaking of which, especially with like VRChat, there's always these different communities out there. So, which I feel like before this, or so you always experience like different other communities here and there. Um, is there like any experience you could share from like each community you've ever been part of, or basically like different memories or aspects you can share? Because I'm pretty sure there's like a little bit of
Like
different things you had.
like prior to VRChat, or
Prior,
including VRChat.
yep, pretty much going down the timeline.
Yeah, funny thing with communities is way back when I kind of like got one of my first drives was when I was interacting with is within the Minecraft community. So there's a lot that I done within the Minecraft community because that's kind of like a lot of the centralized area of my channel came from, or where it came from. But back then, when I really wasn't doing a whole lot, I was interacting with the Yogscast build server and the Yogscast public server a bit. Which from there is when I got my first taste of being able to be with a community and interact with it. Because prior, all I had was basically friend groups. I guess the only thing I could technically have as a community, although it's more small, was like this D&D group I used to be with. It was a thing that was like a long-running thing, but overall it's kind of like a smaller community, so it's kind of less influence in my life, I guess. But in the Yogscast thing, in the public server, it was when I had a first taste of kind of like building up something. Because what I did was found some area in the map and started just plotting out a castle. And then I had person after person joining in, seeing that I was making something, and then wanting to help. And then like from there, just started building a village. And it's like, okay, you're the baker, you're the miner, you're the whatever, and it's like kind of basically building this little community within that, and then starting getting attention from the castle over yonder because they're like, oh yeah, we're watching you guys build that up and whatever. So it's kind of like my first taste of like being with the community. But at the end, that one got kind of like shut abruptly because they immediately they shut down the servers. Based like no contact, no nothing. We were using like a TeamSpeak, and like all that just got shut off because stuff was going down. So all that build up was just kind of like left a void, and I just kind of want to be a part of a community again. So I kind of pulled that as a drive for myself within YouTube and whatnot. So I was doing the YouTube, I was meeting some people, oh yeah, when it came to Minecraft, I mostly interacted with my friend Sean on that, because he was like the big like other Minecraft friend that I had, which I knew from the basically IRL. So this is after like the channel was started. Prior to that, we were just doing like basic games like Magicka and whatnot, and then we started doing like mod reviews and whatnot together, and trying to build up the channel, interacting with the Minecraft community. And then that built up to like when we did the DBC mod, getting us pulled into the DBC community. Which what really pulled us into that was when I decided to host this tournament, which that's what this world itself is based on.
Yeah, and even in the back there, like in the back of this map right here, there's like a video player that shows like the footage of it too. So
yeah, if you ever want to check that out, just look up I think it's like DBZ World Tournament in VRChat. It's not really much right now. It's prior to Udon. It still has like the Kai blasters and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like the predecessor to the other map, but essentially this is where I really started getting into my own kind of community surrounding around it, because I hosted the tournament and that had a huge draw to several other YouTubers that were within the same community. So like we're hosting a tournament, I made that kind of a yearly thing, started meeting a bunch of people, and yeah, and that was all good. The only thing is that one thing that I learned within the Minecraft community, in opposed to the VRChat community. Oh yeah, which by the way, with the World Tournament thing and past that, that's around when I met Mega G Wolf. Not the World Tournament itself. I think prior I met him because I was doing like Minecraft DBZ video stuff I was trying to do, and he like did a really good Vegeta. I'm like, hey, would you like to do this Vegeta voice and a thing I'm doing? He's like, oh yeah, sure. And I'm like, well, he just responded, and then everything was great with there. And it's like, yeah, we're not doing the video because nothing was working with it, and so that got dropped. But beyond that, we were still friends.
I mean, hey, that's good. I mean, even for that small interaction, you both are still friends from here on out. So.
Oh yeah. Because yeah, he's a good guy. Done a lot of stuff, and actually, my biggest bump in my channel was when I did the World Tournament. He shouted it out, and that's where I had like my biggest, I guess, sub gain spike overall. So I do owe him a lot, and he's a really good guy. But I would say that was probably my highlight in terms of with Minecraft community, because over time, one of the things I learned, at least with that community, as opposed to, well, I guess a little bit in the VRChat community, but the Minecraft community especially, since we're not connected constantly like we are in VRChat, we're not the same. It's not the same kind of social network. So a lot of people that you end up meeting are more out to use each other as opposed to actually be friends. With several people I met, like GDB, Zaro, and a couple other people within that community, ended up being really nice people. But then I met other people that were not so great, and they're basically just there to use you for your views and then leave, kind of thing. And that was kind of a common thing I started interacting with VRChat, is that they're more about like getting what they can use out of you and then ditching you as quick as possible.
Well,
Which is
no. Go ahead. I just had a thought, but I'll go right ahead.
yeah. Overall was one of the reasons why I started getting pushed away from that kind of community, because people would actively try to push you away from other people as well. And then when I got into VRChat, I started meeting like person after person after person that was very similar to like the like G, Zaro, DB and whatnot, who like they're doing their own thing and whatnot, but they're not necessarily out to use each other. Now, obviously, there are those within VRChat that are just out to use each other, but the thing is, because this is more like tightly knit community, you end up meeting like pretty much everyone. So you end up meeting a lot more of the good people as well.
Yeah.
So overall, it's like, I don't know, as far as a community, it felt a lot more tightly knit, a lot more people being supportive, and far less people trying to use people. They exist, but they're easier to spot.
Well, the thing too is like, this is brought up many times before, but basically VRChat is a very small community. Like, basically, if there was a tiny island out in the middle of the ocean, that would be us, just because, like, and plus not only that, even if people come and people go, those who stick around, like, the people we've seen, like, from the past to here on out, we still see them. Like, basically, from here on out or so. Like, in a weird way or so, we're, like, also a neighborhood. It's just that at one point or another, we never really go by and just have, like, a giant party with everybody else. Or just have, like, just go see them in their own living room. My question I always wonder was basically, it's the fact that basically, too, with VRChat entirely, like, it's a social game and everything, so I feel like, in a way or so, like, there, you know, the whole parasocial kind of thing, where basically sometimes, you know, things, like, over the internet or so, people might misinterpret it as certain things, or basically certain things that, it's weird. It's weird because, like, in VRChat, it's kind of like it falls in that parameter, just because sometimes people will assume it's something else when it's not, in a way. So I was wondering that maybe when people assume that, you know, people are just like, you know, misusing people or so, or just basically, you know, doing that or so, they're not doing it on intentionally. It's just basically like a small, like, accidentally rub the wrong way and everything, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying, because like in here, some people consider like if you're showing up on their stream, you're like using them for their clout kind of thing.
It's
And
weird.
That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah,
The
it's
thing I'm
weird
talking
tropes.
about is when somebody, it was when somebody would interact with you, and then because there's a disagreement, actively tells all your friends to avoid you. That's the kind of using I'm talking about.
Ah, gotcha. I see what you mean. And it's weird too, because you got like a list of so many friends on here. You try to see everybody, but then again, it's like, you know, you're one person. It's kind of hard to see everybody here and there. But moving on or so past that, I also want to talk about. Let's talk about anime. Now, Animo. Now, we've talked about Dragon Ball Z because of the influence on him, but I was gonna say, is there any other like animes that kind of like any other animes that stick out with you past Dragon Ball Z that kind of like influence, you know, what you do here and there, or basically things that just kind of like stick with you, especially no matter how long ago it was?
Well, in terms of I don't know, animes that had lasting impressions on me, at least, would be like Steins Gate, Deuteron. Trying to think of, well, if I guess I can't think of the name, it's probably not a big impression, but like I'm a big anime geek, so there's like a huge amount that I enjoy watching now and again. A lot of things I've come to enjoy a lot is anything that it resembles closely or remotely closely to Cowboy Bebop. I really enjoyed Cowboy Bebop back in the day. I think I did have a lot of my, I would say, kind of initial humor and whatnot influenced by Ranma Half, which is, you know, a lot of martial arts fighting, but they're also extremely comical. I mean, for God's sakes, they had tea time martial arts where you had to fight in the tea time pose and fight each other like that.
Good lord. Good lord.
But yeah, I'd say I had some influence from that. Also, another one that was like when I was growing up, I watched a lot would be Tenchi Muyo and Naruto. I really like the early days of Naruto with their animation style and whatnot, and the kind of hardships in growing up with that. And with Tenchi Muyo is just another like comical kind of thing. It was a harem anime, but it was like with alien girls and all that.
I think it was I think it was the first of its kind when it comes to like that whole harem thing. If you think about it. Then again, I don't know if there's anything past that. I don't know if there was anything past that or so because it was like during that golden age of like Adult Swim when you first saw Tenchi Muyo.
Yeah, I'd say it might have been the earliest I've seen. I don't know if it would have been the earliest harem anime though.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it if there was like something else back then, but it's just kind of like, it's just one of those things where anything could be possible, especially if you look past it. So you never know.
But yeah, it's hard to say whether or not I've been per se influenced by a lot of them. I did like a lot of the kind of strength that is shown in a lot of Shonen Jump type of animes, which I watched a lot of those when I was growing up. The whole idea of being able to surpass limits and things like that, or overcome adversity and things like that.
Yeah.
I guess there might have been some of those lessons, but I really hop around between a lot of different animes because even trash animes I can get into well enough as long as they're not like just completely brain dead.
No, I feel you. And to follow up that question or so, what would be like? I know there's like so many animes on here, but one question I would like to ask is, what would be the one that kind of like, if there's any anime that hits you close to home, what would it be? Like, I know there might be split up in different ones here and there, but what would be the one that kind of like sticks out to you, the first thing that pops in your head?
Like the one I most relate to?
Most relate to, yes.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I don't know. I liked a lot with the Ranma Half and Tenchi Muyo, mostly just because those are very heavily nostalgic for me. I couldn't say that they were the best ones I've seen, but in terms of, I guess, because I couldn't even say I could relate to them because that's more like,
more of a
semi-harem / martial arts kind of thing.
Kind of a comedy thing to it, you know.
Yeah. I guess like the biggest thing for me in anime that I usually like looking into is things that involve character growth or character development. Like personal like growth, seeing them get transformations, powers, or evolve their personality over time, which is why I never really could get into mecha stuff, because for me that felt more like it was about the robot than the person, even though they do like be about the person. It feels more about the robot.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
But yeah, I don't know, because I guess I never really personally felt like I related to any of them. They're just more of an escapism for me.
Okay, no, I got you. I mean, that's perfect too because anything could be an escapism, especially when you just need time away from a lot of things. Like VRChat was like that too, and as bundle is. So now, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, even though I've done like a lot with DBZ, I couldn't even say the same for that, because I liked it a lot and whatnot, but it's not even my favorite anime. If you're to talk like favorite, obviously you don't usually have one, but for me that would be within the lines of like Steins Gate, Fullmetal Alchemist, the ones that I mentioned before, Ranma Half and Tenchi Muyo. Those ones would be kind of like, and Cowboy Bebop. Those ones would be like, I would say like more of like my top fives, ones that I can always recall and could talk hours on end about.
I got you. And this gets down to the last question on hand that I usually ask for everybody, no matter what interview it is. So right there is pretty much that camera, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up and I'm going to give you space to be able to have the floor for this, but the question I want to ask you is, what are your goals and dreams? And at best, or so, if you don't have like specifically like so many dreams or so many goals out there, what would be your best advice you can ever give to anybody? So
all right, you want me to camera?
Just go ahead and just have the center floor. I'm going to back up for you. Go ahead.
Okay. In terms of goals and dreams, it's more of a in the moment thing, not so much like a accomplishment thing. Because overall, my goal is to essentially, I guess you can call it like a dream or aspiration, is to leave behind stuff that people can continuously have fun with and be happy with, be able to interact with, show other people and those kind of things. Because like way back when, my aspiration was to become a game developer, to be able to make like an ultimate game or something that people could have fun with, and bring them happiness, bring them that distraction that they can need. So the moment it's I guess wrapped in two things. I always want to be able to improve, want to learn things, and want to create things. And B, I want to be able to leave behind something that other people can share with others and ultimately can bring them happiness, or at least a distraction, if anything. Overall, I don't feel like I ever need to stop at a singular thing. It's essentially just as many things as I can create before the end. I guess advice, all I can really say is that if you ever see somebody who can do something amazing, something like spectacular, and you feel like you can never do it, understand that all it really takes to be able to do what they do is enough persistence and a willingness to learn. A lot of us do have some kind of mental blocks when it comes to these things, but all it requires is to continuously push yourself and to really want to do it. So if you ever want to do something, or you see somebody who makes something spectacular, could do like several backflips or anything like that, just understand the only way that you're going to be able to get there is first get over that voice in your head that says you can't do it, because ultimately, eventually, you'll be able to do it. Obviously, there's physical limitations which might be difficult, like you might not ever get to that 9-foot height, because honestly you probably don't want to get there. But things like that, you might want to set that aside. But if you want to learn a skill, you want to learn how to do something, all it's going to take is time, persistence, and patience. I think that'd be about it.
Yeah, that'll be about it right there. I will say those are true and brutal, honest words. Be able to share to everybody, especially when they need that sort of advice on hand. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
But with that in mind,
anybody can be a master.
Anybody in the world can be the master. Especially, just keep in mind, just be the master of your own creation and craft. So, but with that in mind, guys, that will be episode 7 of Shoot the Breeze.